Oh my god, Song Yuhan, so handsome, truly a national idol. The murmurs of passers-by around. At this moment Higu turns towards the source of the sounds, his eyes locked on the poster. The corners of his mouth lift slightly, he nods, having worked several days in a row. Higu's head is spinning. The autumn rain falls on his umbrella like ice needles. Higu runs home through the heavy rain. By the time he reaches his doorstep, he's soaking wet, also carrying the strong smell of alcohol. Higu fumbles with his waist to unlock the door. After a spin, the door opens, Higu steps in, he quickly grabs his phone to check his reflection. Another night without sleep. Another rainy night. At this moment Higu looks indescribably haggard, and as he opens the door he hears the sound of a gaming console. When Higu pushes the door and enters, a man's silhouette in the darkness sits on the sofa, holding a game controller and focusing on the screen, two long legs that don't seem real casually resting on the coffee table. Have you eaten? Higu continued to undress as he hung up his coat. The man didn't lift his head. His slender fingers kept pressing buttons. Suddenly, he said, "No, I haven't eaten. This game is." The man threw the game controller aside and said, "Family matters aren't going well, you came. Why don't you turn on the light?" Song Yuhan muttered, "Don't turn it on, I'm busy and stressed out." He covered his eyes with his hand. After adjusting to the light, Song Yuhan's face, with its three-dimensional features, looked tired and lazy. His waist leaned in a relaxed manner. The black turtleneck highlighted his smooth, fair skin. His semi-long curly hair was casually tied back. "Yuhan, are you hurt?" Higu's eyes fell on Song Yuhan. "Maybe." Song Yuhan picked up a cup and took a sip of water. His collarbone was exposed from the turtleneck, making Higu's heart skip a beat. Song Yuhan's movements were both sensual and lazy at this moment. Higu turned his head and said, "If you're tired, just take a shower and go to bed early." Song Yuhan turned his head to look at him and smiled knowingly. "You don't think I came all the way here just to sleep, do you? Why wouldn't I sleep at my own place or in a 5-star hotel?" Why does he look at Song Jihan so calmly? He knows what Song Jihan is here for. It's nothing more than doing some lowering of that door. Over the years, the only things they've done together are playing poker and racing, that's it. He's just a little hopeful, hoping that Song Jihan is just tired, just coming to him to calm down his emotions. "Song, why do you always come in like that? Come here." Song Jihan triggered his defensiveness. "How long has it been since we last met? I've actually missed you." But Jiyushin retorted. Song Jihan, with his hands, pulled him closer. Jiyushin struggled against his strong physique, while Song Jihan let out a soft snort. "Worthy of being an engineer. Let me check if you've gained weight. Remember to exercise more, always sitting in the office." He flipped Jiyushin onto the couch, burying his head in Jiyushin's neck, gently biting it before starting to tug at his clothes. Song Jihan seemed very impatient. Song Jihan flipped Jiyushin onto the couch. When he's in a good mood while driving, he might even have a little race prepared. But when he's not in a good mood, he would just recklessly charge into the crowd. Today, Song Jihan was the latter. Jiyushin raised an eyebrow in acquiescence. With his lips curved and a content expression, he asked why it was still you, why some muddy ground looking at his face as innocent as a baby's, which irresistibly charmed. "My body can't help but desire, I wish to slowly crawl upon your skin." He still couldn't adapt to the physical demands of Song Yuhan's embrace, but it wasn't too hard, at least he got used to it, at least he could endure. He didn't know how much time had passed, he was somewhat delirious, but he felt Song Yuhan's presence physically within him. When Song Yuhan finished it was already midnight. He lay on the ground, too lazy to move his evenly distributed fingers. Song Yuhan lay beside him, already asleep with even breaths. His gaze shifted from scattered to focused, carefully observing Song Yuhan's profile. Recently it was hard to describe. Song Yuhan had complained more than once about not being in sync with others. "No one could match him as well as I could. Perhaps that's why our relationship has lasted until now." Among the countless handsome men and beautiful women by Song Yuhan's side, how could none of them come to sleep with him? It was precisely because of the cold weather in the capital, and the function hadn't started yet, relying on the hot temperature of human bodies. To walk out of the deep autumn chill, all I wanted was this moment of peace. To keep it would be great. He opened his eyes. Song Yuhan was sleeping soundly. His scattered hair draped over the side of his face, his hand rested on my waist, slightly electrifying. I felt a bit moved, so I shifted slightly. I turned my head to look at Song Yuhan beside me, took his hand, and placed it on my heart, quietly observing the whole person. The moment he woke up, he went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Song Jihan sat at the table, scrolling through his phone, and a WeChat message popped up, along with a pleasant female voice. "Why didn't you reply to me?" "I'm so sad." As Song Jihan ate, he replied indifferently, "Busy lately," Song Jihan said calmly. "Can you hear this voice?" It sounds so distant. Ah, I forgot, you don't really listen to Jae Hong, a newcomer, asked me to write songs for him. You slept, he said calmly. In fact, he has listened to each of Song Jihan's songs countless times, he just doesn't listen to others' songs. Song Jihan turned his head and said intimately, who knows if it's clean, then why do you still bother with him? He quietly lowered his head, holding the bread in his hands. Not afraid to promote him, he thinks he's very unique, wanting me to write songs for him. Song Jihan laughed. Why would I agree to him? Are you unhappy? Song Jihan said calmly, the hand holding the bread tensed up. Could he be unhappy? He doesn't get jealous? At this moment, Song Jihan moved closer to him, his eyes fixed on him, asking, are you unhappy? It was hard to discern in his downcast eyes. Are you happy or not? Hee-gu, are you upset? Hee-gu wore a blank expression, his eyes vacant as he said, how could that be? Song Yuhan continued, oh, really? Song Yuhan looked at Hee-gu with a mocking smile, anyone who gets close to me always wants something from me, right? Hee-gu's eyes remained blank. His feelings were just a joke to Song Yuhan, a burdensome joke. He didn't want to humiliate himself, so Hee-gu played along, giving a faint smile, I want something too. Hee-gu wiped his mouth, looking at him calmly, I want to smear your face. Song Yuhan burst into laughter. Hee-gu watched Song Yuhan. The reason they could maintain this kind of relationship was mainly because Hee-gu didn't talk much, didn't cling, didn't cause trouble, didn't resist. If he had even one of these traits, he probably wouldn't have the chance to get close to this man for the rest of his life. It was better to let him think that Hee-gu was no different from others. At that time, Hee-gu was a bookworm, a top student preparing for the college entrance exam. He only dared to secretly watch Song Yuhan. Song Yuhan was the campus idol, popular everywhere, tall, played basketball, mastered several musical instruments, and often appeared on various media like a big star. He even had one foot in the entertainment industry. Most importantly, he was very good looking. Originally, the two of them would never have had any interaction. But by chance, during a school event, Song Yuhan's role was to sing the theme song Live, while Hee-gu's role was to print out the lyrics of that song. He discovered that Song Yuhan's English was much better than his own, so he nervously said, sorry, I didn't help much. The teenager's skin reflected a mesmerizing glow in the setting sun, his bright eyes like shattered stardust, sprinkling into people's hearts. It's rare to meet someone who doesn't talk much when they're with me. Song Yuhan's words made Hee-gu's heart race. He couldn't tell if Song Yuhan was genuinely praising him or mocking him. He only remembered that he kept watching Song Yuhan's back. The event was a great success. After the performance, Song Yuhan said many words of thanks gracefully. At this moment, Song Yuhan patted Hee-gu's shoulder and said softly, it's a good thing you were here. Hee-gu, it was the first time Song Yuhan called his name. Hee-gu's palms were sweating with nerves, his body heating up. Song Yuhan suddenly leaned close to Hee-gu's ear and whispered softly, Hee-gu, do you want to try being with me? Hee-gu was startled. His secret crush had been discovered. The embarrassment and awkwardness of that moment felt like being caught red-handed. Song Yuhan continued, isn't this what you want? Song Yuhan thought Hee-gu was no different from others. They only wanted his looks, his fame, his money. Because this kind of mutually beneficial relationship was what Song Yuhan wanted. Besides, this kind of emotion was just a joke to him. Why humiliate oneself? After dinner, Song Yuhan made another phone call. Hee-gu opened his tablet. This 65-inch TV is so expensive, over 40,000 yuan. Hee-gu thought for a while, moved his fingers. 2 months' salary was gone. Hee-gu was a loner. He rarely spent money. In the future, he wouldn't get married, nor would he have children. What's the point of saving money? Although Hee-gu felt a little heartache, he thought about it. Earning money was just for spending. Spending money was just for happiness. Seeing Song Yuhan made him happy. After finishing the call, Song Yuhan lazily lay on the sofa. Hee-gu, come and give me a head massage. Hee-gu put down the tablet, sat next to him, and placed Song Yuhan's head on his lap. He massaged Song Yuhan's temples with moderate force. Song Yuhan closed his eyes and let out a light hum. He looked quite comfortable. Hee-gu couldn't help but smile slightly, wanting to lower his head and gently kiss his smooth forehead. He whispered, you're preparing for a concert, right? Song Yuhan replied, yes, but I should probably cut back on them. Donating money is fine, but it just takes too much energy, right? Hee-gu said gently, I know you prefer writing songs. Song Yuhan let out a light hum, then suddenly seemed to remember something. Hey, guess who I saw the other day? Who? Hee-gu asked. Your college boyfriend. He came back to the country. Hee-gu's hand paused. His emotions were stirred. Feng Zhen, you know he wasn't my boyfriend. Oh, then what was he? A fling? Song Yuhan laughed. But wait, weren't you still a virgin when you were with me? Higu said calmly, I told you we were just friends. Why bring up the past? Song Yuhan's displeased expression slightly angered Higu. You humiliated Feng Zhen back then and toyed with me. You were the clear winner, Song Yuhan. What more are you dissatisfied with? Song Yuhan looked at him with piercing eyes. Are we still together? Song Yuhan tilted his chin, staring at Higu without blinking, as if trying to see through Higu's expression. Guess what I told him? Higu's tone was flat. It doesn't matter. Song Yuhan smiled mischievously. I told him you're still in my harem. His expression at that moment was really something. Higu stood up and said, I don't want to talk about this. Song Yuhan grabbed his wrist roughly, his expression arrogant. What's wrong? Upset? No. Just not interested. Song Yuhan stood up, pulling Higu close under him, smiling. Don't pretend. As soon as you heard that name, your expression changed. Because of that guy, we got together. We were never together, right? Higu shouted, Song Yuhan. Higu laughed, pointing at himself and then at Song Yuhan. This is not what you call being together, and I'm not a part of your harem either. Song Yuhan's face turned cold. He let go of his hand. What did you say? Higu, do you really want to discuss our relationship? Is it necessary? Because Feng Zhen is. Song Yuhan interrupted, shouting, it's not necessary. Song Yuhan turned and walked out. There was only the sound of the door slamming shut. Higu sighed heavily. Why? It's hard for him to come by, yet we just argue. What's the point after all these years? Doesn't he know what kind of person Song Yuhan is? He saw a cell phone on the sofa. Song Yuhan doesn't take most things seriously. He's often careless. He picked up the cell phone and texted Xiao Song. Xiao Song, Yuhan's phone is with me. He was planning to take a day off for himself because he was too tired yesterday, but now he needs work to distract himself. When he stepped out of the company elevator, the phone rang urgently. He reacted instantly and hung up. He immediately realized it was Song Yuhan's phone and hastily redialed the number. Hello, Xiao Song. On the other end, Song Yuhan was furious. You dare hang up on my call, Higu? But the elevator just came out, the signal was bad. Song Yuhan took a deep breath, and after some static, Xiao Song's voice came through. Brother Higu, we're at Desheng Cinema. Sorry, I really can't get away today. When can you bring it over? No problem, I'll have my assistant deliver it now. Alright, have your assistant call me first when they arrive. I'll give them a work pass so they can come up themselves. Hand my phone to some random assistant? Are you kidding? Song Yuhan's annoyed voice came from afar over the phone. Xiao Song chuckled bitterly. Brother Higu, okay, I'll come over. After hanging up, Higu shook his head helplessly. Desheng Cinema is located in the North 6th Ring, getting there would mean crossing the entire capital. He just hoped there wouldn't be any traffic at this time. After driving for more than an hour, he finally arrived at Desheng Cinema. It's his first time at this so-called boyfriend's Hongdian without Desheng. The place was incredibly busy, at least 2 or 3 films were being shot here daily. Higu parked the car and called Xiao Song. Brother Higu, here's your work pass. Brother Han is shooting a commercial, come in and have a look, Xiao Song said. I'd rather not, just give him the phone. There's nothing interesting to see. As an outsider, I might get in the way of your work, Higuo replied calmly. Not at all, it's actually quite fun. Have a look, Xiao Song insisted. Higuo looked at Xiao Song feeling something odd. Realizing he might have been too pushy, Xiao Song said awkwardly, you had a fight with Brother Han, didn't you? Brother Han's in a pretty bad mood today. Why don't you go in and cheer him up? Otherwise, it's hard for us to work too. I'm not good at cheering people up, Higuo said very frankly, plus we didn't fight. How could he possibly argue with Song Jihan? Even talking back a couple of sentences is his limit. Xiao Song looked at him disappointedly and said, drive safely, you've worked hard. Higuo patted his shoulder and turned to get into the car. The car slowly made its way back. Not long after driving off, his phone rang. It was Xiao Song. As soon as he answered, he heard Xiao Song say in a lowered voice, awkwardly, Brother Higuo, Brother Han is angry, he wants you to come back. Angry? Higuo really couldn't understand Song Jihan's logic and said helplessly, okay. During rush hour, it was a bit congested. It took half an hour to get there. Xiao Song led him to a gate where shooting was happening. Standing at the door of the rest room, Xiao Song said cautiously, Brother Han, Brother Higuo is here. A cool voice came from the rest room, open the door. As soon as the door opened, they saw Song Jihan in the uniform of a Kuomintang Major General, standing in front of a mirror while a stylist fixed his belt. Song Jihan said, everyone out, I need to rest for a while. The stylist, makeup artist, and everyone else left. Xiao Song also followed them out. He Guo hesitated for a moment. As he was about to step in, Song Jihan glared at him. You, come here. He Guo closed the door and walked up to him. What's wrong? Feeling upset? Song Jihan took off his glasses and tossed them aside. Xiao Song told you to come in, why didn't you? Song Jihan, because of his long eyelashes, really dislikes wearing glasses. I was afraid of affecting your work. Nonsense. Song Yuhan pinched his chin. You just want to avoid me, right? Why would I avoid you? Song Yuhan sneered. Isn't it because I mentioned Feng Zhou? You seem quite upset about him. We haven't been in touch for so many years, that shouldn't count as being upset. Then why are you acting so strangely because of him? He Gu thought for a moment. I don't think I'm acting strangely. Song Yuhan raised an eyebrow. Are you contradicting me? He Gu sighed. Yuhan, what do you want? Talking to me in that tone, as if I'm being unreasonable. Song Yuhan pushed He Gu, almost knocking him to the ground. He Gu straightened his clothes. He didn't know how to comfort people. He just understood Song Yuhan, the fire in his heart. No matter the cause, as long as he doesn't vent it out, it will definitely cause chaos for everyone. Song Yuhan suddenly kicked the tea table apart. He roared at He Gu, are you fucking dead? Can't you say something nice? Can't you smile? I spend money on an MB who is more considerate than you. What use are you? He Gu's heart ached a bit, his lips trembled slightly. He didn't know what to do. He Gu paused for a long time. Then he spoke, Yuhan, I was wrong. Don't be angry. Although he didn't know where he went wrong. Song Yuhan looked at him coldly for a long time and said, take off your pants. He Gu looked at him in surprise. It wasn't like it was a show. There are people everywhere outside. No, since you don't even know how to coax people, you should at least learn how to calm someone down. The place is full of people, yet Song Yuhan shouted, no. Since you can't even coax someone, you should at least learn how to calm someone down. He Gu was stunned and hesitated before locking the door with a click. Song Yuhan casually locked the door, crossed his arms, and watched him. He Gu unzipped his jacket expressionlessly. Song Yuhan strode over, grabbed He Gu fiercely, pulled down the zipper, turned He Gu's back to him, and threw him onto the sofa. He played poker recklessly and relentlessly, mumbling with regret, it's a pity you never officially got together with Feng. Without a comparison, you'll never know that I'm even better in bed than him. He Gu clenched his teeth, his forehead was covered in sweat, and his eyes were slightly bloodshot. He endured both the pain and the indignity. In his heart, he told himself not to mind, to not be petty. What he wanted was Song Yuhan's company, and for that, he had to pay. The cost of not getting up is quite fair. Song Yuhan finished and tidied up his clothes. He Gu's legs were weak, and he lay sprawled on the sofa, unable to move for a long time. Seeing He Gu's miserable appearance, Song Yuhan's mood seemed to improve a bit. He pinched He Gu's cheek and showed a malicious smile. Did you enjoy the beating? He Gu glanced at him without saying anything. Song Yuhan patted He Gu's face and said, I'm asking you a question. Did you enjoy it? He Gu whispered, I did. At this moment, He Gu's face was flushed red. Song Yuhan bent down, gave a gentle kiss on the corner of He Gu's mouth, and said something that felt like a slap in the face, I enjoyed it too. Among all the people I've slept with, none are younger and prettier than you, but few are as captivating. You could say you're quite gifted. Song Yuhan's favorite exercise was playing poker, and He Gu was the one he had been with the longest. Previously, it was mentioned that Song Yuhan had displayed his poker skills in the lounge. After finishing, he turned around, walked to the mirror, tidied up his clothes, and said to He Gu, wait here for me. I'll take you out for some good food tonight. Song Yuhan hummed contentedly, left the room while swaggering out, and closed the door. He Gu leaned against the sofa, weakly adjusted his pants, fastened his belt, and looked blankly at the ceiling. His heart felt empty. He knew he was somewhat despicable, but he didn't love anyone else. He was nearly 30. He couldn't expect to live for many more years. He wanted to enjoy every minute and every second he had with Song Yuhan before he lost his charm. It would be nice to have some more memories. He didn't care how others lived or what they thought of him. He didn't want to deny his own feelings for the sake of pride. He liked Song Yuhan, so he just liked him. From yesterday to today, he was already exhausted. As he waited, he fell asleep on the sofa. He didn't know how long it had been when someone pushed the door open. He Gu woke up in a daze, looking confusedly at the door. He Gu Ge, why are you still here? Xiao Song looked at him in surprise. He Gu rubbed his eyes and replied, Yuhan told me to wait for him. Xiao Song awkwardly said, Han Ge left a long time ago. He went out to eat with the crew. I stayed behind to clean up. Higu was stunned for a moment, then regained his senses and tiredly got up. Oh, then I'll go home, he said. Xiao Song seemed a little reluctant. Han Ji was so busy this afternoon that he probably forgot. How about I take you out to eat? No need. You should go home and rest early, Higu replied. Xiao Song, feeling sympathetic, said, you must have had a hard time, Higu Ge. Higu said nothing more, picked up his keys, and left. As he left, his phone rang. On the other end, a voice said, Higu, it's me. After Higu had been used and discarded by Song Yuhan, he was left alone in the lounge. When he exited the room under Xiao Song's sympathetic gaze, he received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end said, Higu, it's me. Higu's heart tightened. Song Zhen, you're back in the country? When they met, Song Zhen was standing by the stairs of the restaurant, waiting for him. Higu felt dazed and emotional. Time had passed so quickly. Song Zhen hadn't changed much and still looked so good. His demeanor was even more composed than before, and the aura of wealth around him had grown stronger. His tailored trench coat made his figure look especially tall and upright. Higu softly called out, walking up with a smile and extending his hand, Song Zhen, long time no see. Song Zhen also smiled. As his hand clasped Higu's, he slightly pulled him closer and gave him a gentle hug. Song Zhen asked Higu, you look tired. Have you been working too hard lately? Higu replied, I'm in the construction business, working overtime is normal. I'm used to it. Higu brought a bottle of 1999 Romanée Conti. Higu didn't really know much about wine, but he knew Song Zhen liked it. He smiled slightly. Is this from Song Yuhan? The tone was not pleasant. Higu felt a bit awkward. Yes. Is it expensive? Not too much, Song Zhen replied, but then added, it's not something you would usually drink. Song Zhen looked at him and said, time flies. Did Song Yuhan tell you that we met? Higu pretended to remain calm and said, yes, he did. Song Zhen raised his eyebrows. It seems like you two are getting along well. Higu responded, it's okay, I guess. But he talks so much. Don't you often argue? Song Zhen's probing made Higu uncomfortable. Song Zhen said with concern, Higu, why are you putting yourself through this? Higu, can't you see? Song Zhen's words stabbed into Higu's heart like needles. Higu smiled wryly. Song Zhen, I think you misunderstand the relationship between Yuhan and me. After all these years, we've just been keeping each other company. His scandals, real or not, don't concern me much. Song Zhen clenched his fists and said through gritted teeth, so when Song Yuhan says you're part of his harem, he's not joking. Higu forced a smile. For all these years, have you and Song Yuhan just been friends with benefits? Song Zhen's voice was cold with a hint of anger. Higu paused and said, Song Zhen, my relationship with Yuhan has nothing to do with outsiders. Today is about welcoming you back, let's not talk about others. Song Zhen became emotional upon hearing Higu's response. What? I can't even ask? He shouted. If it weren't for Song Yuhan, you would have been mine. Higu could only sigh, let's not bring up the past. It's been so many years. Song Zhen moved closer, his eyes flashing with coldness. He said something that felt like a stab to the heart, you must like him, right? Higu's heart trembled slightly, and he lowered his head to hide his emotions. Song Zhen sneered, you like him, yet you've stayed by his side all these years, watching him switch partners one after another, without saying a word. Higu, are you blind? Higu suddenly threw his chopsticks to the ground, stood up, and looked at Song Zhen expressionlessly. Song Zhen, I didn't invite you to dinner to lecture me. Whether I'm blind or not has nothing to do with you. Let's not meet again. Song Zhen also stood up and shouted, I just can't accept this. How come you only have this strong sense of self-respect when it comes to Song Yuhan? Higu froze. Song Zhen reached out and grabbed Higu's arm, continuing, why did you choose that bastard? He doesn't even like you. What are you after? What does he have that I can't give you? Song Zhen moved closer. Higu turned back and looked calmly at Song Zhen. It's not Song Yuhan's fault that he doesn't like me. He doesn't owe me anything, and I'm not after anything from him. We're all adults here. Song Zhen, it's time you stopped caring about my life. We both have our own paths to follow. Higu's voice was steady. Song Zhen watched him, speechless, as Higu turned and walked away, leaving him standing alone in the restaurant. I chose how to live my life, whether drinking water or doing anything else, it's up to me. Higu's heart ached deeply, and Song Zhen's words made his heart throb with pain. As long as he cut open his wounds himself, he could avoid more trouble. Higu had resigned, and some of his colleagues wanted to have a farewell drink. Higu was with these colleagues. He had booked a KTV room to let them have the farewell party in advance. As soon as he got out of the car, a middle-aged lady said, "Mr. He, is this the first time you're riding in this car? This car costs over $1 million, right?" The lady continued, "Mr. He, you're truly young and successful, and you're handsome too. Really, Mr. He, I'm not bragging. My niece would be a perfect match for you," she said hesitantly, with a cautious and tentative tone. "Ms. Yang, I appreciate your thoughts." He replied calmly, "I grew up in a family where my parents didn't get along. When I was in middle school, my father passed away. After my mother remarried, she never came to see me. I don't believe in marriage. That's why I won't get married." Higu glanced at her when he pushed the door into the private room. "Thank you for your kindness, Ms. Yang. In the future, I hope things unrelated to work won't be mentioned in front of me." Ms. Yang just muttered a couple of times, not knowing what to say. At this moment, Higu's phone vibrated in his hand. When he saw the screen displaying a private number, Higu's eyes lit up, and he immediately answered the call. It was Song Yuhan. What are you doing?" Song Yuhan's voice, with a lazy tone and slightly hoarse, sounded exceptionally sexy. After a brief silence, Higu replied, "I'm at a dinner party." Song Yuhan said, "Boring, come over and keep me company." Higu answered, "I can't leave now, maybe a bit later." "How much later?" Song Yuhan asked. "Around 10? There was a pause on the other end of the line. "No, come over now." Higu replied softly, "I really can't leave this dinner, but I'll try to come earlier, okay? Suit yourself." Song Yuhan's tone was clearly displeased. He hung up the phone right after saying that. Higu was still holding the phone, not yet turned around, when a hand patted him on the back. Higu saw Gu Kuangpei's bright smile and smiled back at him. Come on, go inside the room. What are you standing outside for?" Gu Kuangpei, Higu's superior at the company, was an extremely charismatic man. With his appearance, the story would only get more exciting. When Song Yuhan was bored, he would think of Higu. Last time, he told Higu to come to him. After angrily hanging up the phone, Higu held his phone, hesitating. The elevator doors opened, and he heard Gu Kuangpei's hearty laughter. He pulled himself together, smiled, and greeted him, "Mr. Gu." Gu Kuangpei asked what Higu was doing, urging him to join him in the private room. Higu said, "Just making a phone call." "Who was it?" Gu Kuangpei laughed, winking playfully. "Must be a well-known figure. Was it a friend reminding you to go home for dinner?" Higu chuckled, "No, it wasn't. Come on, they're almost all here." Gu Kuangpei looked at Higu and said, "You didn't eat much. Was it not to your taste?" "No, I just eat less at night. It's a habit." "Good habit." "Higu, what about the thing I talked to you about last time? Have you given it any thought?" Higu kept his head down, not saying a word. Gu Kuangpei smiled and shook his head. "You probably also think it's hard to understand. 30 years old and in such a stable position, why suddenly a big upheaval?" Higu responded, "I think Mr. Gu has considered every step thoroughly. And the salary over there is higher. It doesn't really count as a big upheaval." Gu Kuangpei's smile deepened, looking so confident. "Makes sense." He picked up a wine glass casually. Higu also quickly raised his glass, and said, "Let me toast Mr. Gu. I wish you great success in your new environment." While chatting with Higu, Gu Kuangpei noticed that Higu seemed restless. "What's wrong? Are you in a hurry to leave?" Higu awkwardly said, Kind of." Gu Kuangpei said, "Then go ahead and leave." Gu Kuangpei asked, "Can you drive? Should I have my driver take you?" Higu replied, "No need, Mr. Gu, but thank you. I'll treat you to a meal another day." "All right, take care on the way." Last time, it was mentioned that Higu's little thoughts during the company gathering were noticed by Gu Kuangpei, who didn't insist on keeping Higu there. In this episode, we can't help but feel sorry for Higu. He arrived at Song Yuhan's apartment at around 8:30 p.m. On his way, he bought Song Yuhan's favorite yellow small wontons. After pressing the doorbell, he was stunned by the person who opened the door. A very handsome young man stood before him, looking at him. His gaze finally stopped on the wontons in Higu's hand. He reached out, took the plastic bag, and said, "Thanks." "How much?" Higu calmly replied, 46 yuan. "Who is it?" Song Yuhan's voice came from inside. Higu tried to walk quickly towards the elevator, but it was too late. He heard Song Yuhan's voice from behind, "Higu." Song Yuhan glanced at him, then looked at the wontons. He chuckled, "Why are you here now? Bringing takeout?" Higu expressionlessly said, "You have guests. Go ahead and be busy." Song Yuhan impatiently said, "Come back." He carefully observed Higu, finding it interesting. He had never seen Higu's expressions other than in bed. The young man asked, "Han Ji, who is he?" Song Yuhan ignored the young man, grabbing Higu's face and bringing it close to his own. Not bad, you haven't drunk too much, he said, then took the wontons from him. Song Yuhan casually said, I told you to come at 6, but you didn't. Why are you here now? He rolled his eyes. Did I say I'd wait for you? Higu looked at his watch and replied, no, you didn't. I can leave if you want. Song Yuhan ordered Higu to tidy up the bowls before leaving. Otherwise, the room would smell. The young man playfully said, Han Ji, I can clean up. Let him go. Song Yuhan smiled at him and suddenly asked, Higu, do you know him? I've seen him on TV. Can't remember his name, the young man replied. Song Yuhan said to the young man, introduce yourself. The young man coldly said, my name is Zhuang Jieyu. While eating the wontons, Song Yuhan said casually, Higu, Zhuang Jieyu is your type, right? Doesn't he look like a young Song Zhen? Higu didn't expect Song Yuhan to bring up Song Zhen again. Higu shook his head, not at all. He wondered, with Song Yuhan's fickle personality, what was he trying to do now? Song Yuhan, be a human for once. Previously, Song Yuhan had found a young boy before Higu arrived and had deliberately said the boy looked like Song Zhen, stirring Higu's displeasure. Years ago, Higu. Of course, he said they don't look alike. Really? Isn't it just the same fair-skinned face? The age seems to match too. Song Yuhan smiled slyly at Higu. Not really. Higu walked over, started to clean up their bowls, and took them to the kitchen. Song Yuhan seemed to have had enough fun, ruffled Zhuang Jieyu's hair, and went to get ready, then entered the bedroom. Zhuang Jieyu responded, his gaze drifting toward the kitchen, observing Higu. The man had a good figure and decent looks. Just as Higu finished washing the dishes and turned around, he saw Zhuang Jieyu standing with his arms crossed, leaning against the doorframe, watching him. Zhuang Jieyu suddenly stepped forward and hugged Higu. Hey, wanna have some fun? Hearing this, Higu immediately pushed him away and asked, what do you mean? Upset at being pushed away, Zhuang Jieyu angrily said, am I not good enough for you? You'd be lucky. He added, Han Ji told me to get ready. Can't you just cooperate? Higu paused for a moment and said, you misunderstood. Ju Han doesn't play this game. Zhuang Jieyu chuckled, doesn't play? Then who have I been sleeping with before? Raising an eyebrow, Zhuang Jieyu continued, you know Han Ji has a big appetite, right? Sometimes one person can't satisfy him. He likes to play around. We've already had fun together. Higu pushed Zhuang Jieyu's hand away, saying coldly, I don't play around. Zhuang Jieyu got angry, saying, I'm not that type of person. He doesn't even look at me usually. Frustrated, Zhuang Jieyu grabbed Higu by the collar and forcefully kissed him. Higu was stunned, still in his first genuine kiss, even though Zhuang Jieyu kissed him in anger. But the boy's technique was impressive. Higu pushed Zhuang Jieyu away, wiping the saliva from his lips, unsure how to explain under Song Yuhan's angry gaze. Song Yuhan's furious voice came from behind, what are you two doing? Higu was still in shock from the kiss. Although it was Zhuang Jieyu who initiated it, Zhuang Jieyu looked innocent, saying, Han Ji, didn't you tell me to get ready? Song Yuhan didn't look at Zhuang Jieyu. What did I ask you to prepare? I told you to prepare flowers. Zhuang Jieyu's face changed slightly upon hearing this. Song Yuhan was usually so generous and witty. It was rare to see him speak harshly to anyone. Squinting his eyes, Song Yuhan reached out and pinched Higu's chin. You seemed to enjoy it, didn't you? Can't go a few days without me, and you get this desperate? Higu knew that saying anything would be useless. Whenever Song Yuhan was unhappy, the best thing for Higu to do was disappear. But as Higu turned to leave, Song Yuhan raised his chin and said, if you dare step out of this room, don't ever think of seeing me again. This sentence had its effect. Higu had no choice but to try to explain again. He misunderstood your instructions. He didn't misunderstand. Song Yuhan looked at Higu, his lips curling into a cruel smile. Higu's body trembled. Would Song Yuhan really? Song Yuhan came over and tugged at Higu's tie. For so many years, you've always been obedient. Will you listen to me today too? Higu's Adam's apple moved up and down. Ju Han, don't go too far. He could watch Song Yuhan be with others because he had no position to intervene, but he couldn't participate. That was too disgusting. How do you define too far? Was kissing him too far? Song Yuhan saw Higu kissing another in his home, and it infuriated him. Higu, kissing someone else, shouldn't that be my fault? This sentence seemed to irritate Song Yuhan. He grabbed Higu by the collar. He pressed him against the wall, exuding a cold aura. This seemingly calm Song Yuhan was on the verge of madness today. Song Yuhan asked if Higu would play more exciting games with him later, Would he cooperate? Zhuang Jieyu was almost overwhelmed by the tense atmosphere between them. It was just a kiss. Song Yuhan's reaction seemed a bit excessive. At this point, Song Yuhan squinted, glancing over Higu's face and finally resting on his lips. He rubbed Higu's lips with his thumb. Then, he forcefully kissed him, aggressively. Higu didn't know how to respond to this kiss that felt like punishment. Despite his nervousness, his teeth clashed and couldn't hold on. Song Yuhan's tongue invaded, prying open his teeth, and wandered freely in his mouth. Higu gradually started to lose his breath, a blush creeping up his face. In a daze, Song Yuhan began pulling at his clothes. Higu grasped Song Yuhan's hand tightly, shouting, "Juhan! Today is a special day. Let's play something different." He watched as Song Yuhan tugged, tearing Higu's belt apart. Higu panicked, "Juhan, stop messing around." "Who's messing around?" Song Yuhan's strength was so great that ordinary people couldn't resist. Higu desperately tried to push him away. "Juhan, let me go." Song Yuhan's menacing steps approached. "Don't move. You cancelled my date, shouldn't you make it up to me? Maybe someone watching would be even more exciting. Feel it properly. Did he kiss you better, or did I make you feel better?" His hands already stripped away Higu's last line of defense. Higu's heart ached, tears welled up, and he forcefully pushed Song Yuhan away. Song Yuhan staggered a few steps but quickly regained his balance. Higu looked disheveled, clothes and tie askew, trousers pulled at his feet, his face full of anger. Song Yuhan hadn't expected the usually quiet and obedient Higu to react so strongly. The humiliation on Higu's face left him stunned. Higu shakily pulled up his trousers. Before Song Yuhan could react, Higu had already run out, bolting out the door like a whirlwind. It was the first time Higu had ever resisted Song Yuhan. At that moment, Zhuang Jieyu, seeing the angry Song Yuhan, became scared, standing off to the side, not knowing what to do. Song Yuhan's face turned incredibly dark. He viciously kicked a stool over. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down as he stood there for a long time without moving, lost in thought. After a while, Song Yuhan coldly stared at Zhuang Jieyu. "If you touch him again, you're done in this circle." Zhuang Jieyu gasped, nodding like a chicken pecking rice. Sorry, Han Ji." Exhausted, Song Yuhan pinched his nose bridge, his mood plummeting, and told Zhuang Jieyu to leave. At that moment, Higu, who had run out of Song Yuhan's place, felt like he couldn't hold on. He desperately ran back to his car, eager to start it and head home. Halfway there, he suddenly felt a wave of nausea, grabbed the steering wheel, and pulled over to the side of the road. Higu leaned wearily against the seat back. Thinking about that house, the car had been given to him by Song Yuhan. Higu reached into the glove compartment. He found some tissues, wiped his mouth, and took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. His mind was filled with chaotic thoughts about Song Yuhan and the incident. After a while, Higu started the car again, heading towards his own home, feeling both a sense of relief and uncertainty about what the future might hold.